Hello, everybody. Welcome to Letterform Lectures, online edition. My name is Grendel. I'm Education Director at Letterform Archive and part-time devil. I'm sorry, my little devil horns aren't showing up better today. Letterform Archive is the home of Type West, which is our School of Type Design. We do have an international audience today, so please type in where you're coming from in the chat. And let us know what brought you here today as well in the chat. Finally, if you have questions for our speaker, we'll do them all at the end. So you have to put them in the Q&A and upvote ones that you'd like to see answered if we get a huge pile of questions, because we may not be able to get to them all. So first, I want to give a big shout out to Skilla Zaccolini, who's doing all the behind the scenes work to make this lecture series happen. Thank you, Skilla. Oh my God, we couldn't do it without you. Okay. Welcome to Letterform Lectures 2023. We put these informative lectures on 12 times a year to round out our Type West students' education. More on that program in just a minute. But first off, I have to say that our next scheduled lecturer had to postpone due to the war that's currently unfolding in Palestine. And we grieve for everyone who is affected, and we are doing our best to schedule another lecturer for you soon, so please stay tuned. In the meantime, I want to tell you a little bit about Type West. If you are looking to expand your typographic toolbox, or if you're learning how to develop you're interested in learning how to develop your own original typefaces, or perhaps you've dreamed of starting your own type foundry. Maybe you're just a graphic designer who wants to take your type design skills to the next level. Consider applying for Type West. Our 2024 program in type design is offered both in person in San Francisco and online to students around the world. Both programs are accepting applications now through November 6th, which is next week. If you would like to learn more about our programs and what we're looking for in an applicant, check our website and check the students' websites, which Skilla is going to drop into the chat. We are offering one full BIPOC equity scholarship for each cohort, so please don't hesitate to apply, no matter what your situation. And of course, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask us anything. Our DMs are open. Slide on in. Okay, we've got a few workshops coming up. This one will keep you in stitches as you knit up your favorite fonts just in time for the winter holidays. Learning type knitting will give you so many cozy gift ideas. Sign up now and make your own paper gems with paper artist Dorothy Yuki. She will set you up with some lovely letterformy materials from the archive collection to create jewelry, boxes, and more. These will make great handmade holiday decorations and gifts. And then Tammy Knight and Letterform Archive will provide everything you need to make one of the coolest holiday dioramas ever. Do not miss out on this fun, crafty in-person class. Okay. We have lots of great stuff coming up, including a book signing with Kit Heinrichs, Salon and Dave Fleischer, and a virtual tour from our 2023 docents. So for more information on these and more, go to letarc.org/events, and better yet, become a member. Help keep great lectures like today's going. Finally, be sure to follow us on Instagram to stay on top of upcoming events and programs. We have two, Letterform Archive and Type West. Okay, Letterform Lectures are co-presented by the Letterform Archive and the SF Public Library Book Arts and Special Collections. Letterform Archive is a nonprofit institution housing over 100,000 works of graphic design history. We are dedicated to the art and the craft of the letterform. And you can view all Letterform lectures online soon after they happen. Just check our website. letterformarchive.org. Okay, happy Halloween, everybody. We're thrilled to present Mexican Blackletter specialist and award-winning type designer Jesús Barrientos Mora, who is associate professor at the University of Puebla, and he will take us on a guided tour of some of the most spooky, savory, and spicy Blackletter signs in Puebla, Mexico. So without further ado, take it away, Jesús.
Thank you so much, Grendel. I will share my screen now. And okay.
Looking good.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Grendel. And of course, that's how I want to begin with this lecture, by thanking Grendel and the wonderful team behind the Letterform Archive. We met exactly 1 year ago in one of the best conferences of type that I have been to, Lettrástica in Guadalajara. Saludos a Gen, a Srinka y a todos los del equipo de Lettrástica, por supuesto. And we met, Grendel and I met, and we had a little conversation on Blackletter, because that was my presentation about. It was somewhat similar, but I have to admit that Grendel put me to a great task here, because she wanted to know more and to see everything about my collection of Blackletter that I have collected in Puebla. More on that later. And it's funny because this is apparently a lecture about letter forms or typefaces or calligraphy and lettering, but I think it's more about the awareness of how our environments are shaped by their letter forms. In every country, every city, every town, we have these letter form environments that we might not be aware of all the time, but there's always something there. And this project gave me the opportunity of exploring that and to take some. I don't want to say conclusions, because I pretty much assume that this is an ongoing project. I mean, I've been researching this probably formally the past 5 or 6 years. Well, today is a really interesting day to present this. I mean, it's Halloween, and I wanted to get a little bit on the spooky vibe of the season. I mean, not because of Blackletter being a spooky thing on itself, but because it's really related to the Gothic vibe and to the mysterious things and the creatures that are lying in the back of our minds or in the shadows. And something like that happens with the Blackletter in the Mexican scene, of course, but mainly in the Puebla area where I grew up and where I'm from. I think that it's fair enough to speak or to talk about the Mexican Blackletter, or as Góticas Mexicanas. There's like this particular thing that we don't say. We say Gothic or Gótica in Spanish to the Blackletter. So it's kind of a messy thing, because I might be like hoping between Blackletter and Gothic. I'm sorry if that happens. But what I was trying to explain is that what is Puebla, what it means to be doing this research in Puebla. Puebla is really one of the first cities founded in Mexico. It's almost 5 years old, and there was a time when it was the second largest city in the New Spain, and now it's been downgraded to the 4th place after Monterrey and Guadalajara. But the thing that I really enjoy about Puebla is that it's not Mexico City. because of course there is like this notion that we can know cultures by the things that are in the big cities or the capitals of the nations. But I think that it's not really that of a stretch to affirm that if you want to know the British, you don't get to stay only in London, or if you want to know all about Spain, you won't find it in Madrid or in Barcelona. You need to go further and deeper and see what else is happening there. So this research is also a little bit of a fight between the centrism of things. In this case, the centrism around Mexico City. But well, Puebla is really nearby, like 1.5 hours by bus. This is a picture from the historical archive of the city, and we can spot some a street where with shoe stores. There's like that word Carmen, Zapateria Carmen, that there still exist, and it's interesting to see these huge billboards made with black letter. Puebla is here. In that specific area, we are really near to other states, really interesting, also like Veracruz and Tlaxcala. And actually, some of the pictures that I'm going to show here are taken in the area, not just specifically from Puebla City, but from the whole spectrum of the place. And you can like see these black letters surrounding you every day, everywhere, and it's interesting because when there's something like in front of you, probably you won't see it until you start to think about it, and once you start to do it, you're going to start to see it everywhere. At least that's what happened to me with the black letters in my. First in my neighborhood, but then you start to see everything around. I was telling Grendel some minutes ago that the funny thing is that I kinda to start thinking about Mexican black letter at a conference in Amsterdam back in 2013 when I was showing some of my typefaces to the colleagues in the conference, but the specific anecdote is that while talking with Germans, there were two German designers, and I delivered them a postcard with my typeface Ecstasy, that is like a somewhat black letter typeface. And one of them told me, "Oh yeah, in Mexico they have like a specific taste for black letter, no?" And I was like trying to give back the compliment, saying, "Oh no, yeah, but black letter is a German thing. It's a European thing." And they were like, "No, this is not something that we do now. We are kind of over it. It's more, I think, that you like." And I was like, "No, come on, Mexicans, we don't like that much black letters." But then it kind of started to grow inside of me, the notion, and we are no, I don't want to say obsessed, but we can see it everywhere. It's kind of, there's a lot of explanations for this. Probably it has to do like some regal calligraphy connection to the past, or maybe it's about expressiveness that the black letter has. I may even think that when anything comes or crosses paths with Mexico or the Mexican culture specifically, it becomes a little more fantastic or magical. You can even see this kind of shapes in streets, in street art and graffiti, and it's not that common, but it's also, there's a lot of inventiveness surrounding this kind of things. Probably it is due to some naiveness, but what is naiveness if it's not the pureness of the heart, the pureness of creativity? This is also like probably a social statement that there's a discussion these days about decolonization, and it's really difficult for us as Mexicans to decolonize, because from one side we have this European past, and now we have like this huge influence with the United States culture that I have to make a parenthesis here. I enjoy the influences of the American culture, because I think it's both ways. It works both ways. There's this peculiar symbiosis between Mexican and American culture, and we cannot deny it or even avoid it. So, well, I was talking about this discussion of how to decolonize things in Mexico. And what we do with the Blackletter, it's probably one of the best ways to do it. It's by reappropriating things. You cannot now say that this is like medieval proper Gothic calligraphy. This is another thing. This is something else. This is, of course, part of our letterform environment. And it is, as I was saying, it is everywhere. It's interesting to go taking pictures anywhere. I started to do it during the COVID lockdowns, probably the first wave of the COVID lockdowns. By the end of 2020 and 2021, I started to use my bike surrounding downtown Puebla, and when everything was like slow down and many stores were closed, I could stop and make the pictures, but take the pictures, but also to think about how these letterforms have always been there, and with the agility or the rapidness of things, or of the everyday things, we don't always stop and see how everything is there. So not everything is about Puebla. These pictures were taken in Puebla, in Atlisco, Cholula, Tlaxcala, Mazatecochco, Chautempan, Guamantla, Atempan, Chignautla, Teciutlán, and Tochtepec. And yes, I leave these names on purpose, because as I was saying, not everything Mexican is Mexico City. And I hope that for the audience, or at least for a part of the audience, these names are really hard to spell, because they are even in Spanish. My favorite one probably is Mazatecochco. That's a town nearby Tlaxcala. And there's like a flavor between this kind of influences that the sign painters and the designers of these places give to the Blackletter. It transforms it in a way that now are impossible to classificate. Of course, we know like the most common styles of Blackletter are the Batag, the Rotunda, Schwabacher, and Textura. I also opened the space for a mestiza, like a mixed style, but soon I understood that these classifications or these categories were not enough for what we were witnessing in this landscape of Mexican Blackletters, or as I call it, these post-modern Mexican Blackletters. I think we're going to cover some of the traditional styles. For example, I have the Batag desk on this kind of sign painters. You can like see how the shape of the tip works, or how they try to make something different. You're going to start to see many of these styles that where you're going to ask, where is the Blackletter there? Where is the Gothic style? For example, where it says Los Reyes, in the letter L, of course, there is like this little flower, but it's also like a decoration of Blackletter. There are some other works where the sign painter you can see like a proper training or the following of a style. But then there's like this freedom when you start to do it, because Another thing that probably influences this work is the fact that it's not always made in a canvas or in a plank of wood, like with all the conditions of the perfect conditions to make the lettering. Sometimes they have to be like in a rush, like in weird places. So, well, here's a rotunde. Of course, there are ancient material in Puebla. This is a book from the cathedral from the 17th century. But the real rotundi style, you can see it like in logotypes and in the, of course, this signs like this one. The funny thing, for example, is that you can see like the three different elements of this facade is like the explanation of what you're going to find in the store. Of course, the logotypes of some of the brands that they sell in the store, but the acceleration, it's in Gothic. It's like in a more serious approach. Like, I'm going to tell you something important, so I'm going to speak to you in black letter. So there's that thing. That particular style of the pollos asados, there is like it is kind of rotundi, but like starting to transform a somewhat sans serif. You're going to see it in other examples. Of course, you're going to see a lot of applications made with actual fonts. Some are more created relying on the imagination of the painter. There's a Swabacher-ish thing. I was always saying a lot of fonts. Some fonts will start to appear more often than others. But the thing is how the funny thing is how they blend, that they try to mix between the other levels of information. I think it's kind of funny because probably it's not necessary, but there's always like that the constant need to express something through these shapes. And I think it's the funny thing is that you can feel the essence of the design on that kind of call for attention. Sometimes it's more it lands then in a more formal way. Sometimes it goes over the top. Well, this is a diploma. Of course, there's the diplomatic application of calligraphy for black letter. I mean, that's not something from Mexico, but there are a lot of invention there. Sometimes there are like not a complete reference for the black letter, like in this example, but you can see how the inclination of the tip, or how some stroke resembles that, and that always is going to take us to the land of the mixed style. We're going to see more of that later. Well, that's me. I think this is 2016. Of course, black letter also works nice to make some calligraphy with the broom. There's a lot of textura-like. This textura-like, I don't want to say to name a product by itself. I don't want to see lettering or to say sign painting, because there's many examples of different nature. But there's like a really strong presence of textura style. Many of those are, you can see how they resemble to the models that, for example, the Speedball manual offers. You can actually see how the design painter sometimes is like really neat, really has a really nice use of space. You can even see some of the guidelines there. and how the model is consistent, right? There are some that are less consistent, that they're more like expressive, like this one, but you can still see how there's a style, a specific style, or trying to reach that specific style. And I don't know, maybe the most difficult part for me was to establish how to separate some of these from some of these images into categories, because unless it is typographic, most of them are from a mixed nature. You can see how, for example, this is a really old sign. You can like see a little more like formality in the shapes. And of course, there's a lot of invention in how you mix, or how you're supposed to decorate these letters. I mean, the mere notion of the need for decoration, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's not really necessary. This is one of the greatest examples that I have ever seen. Is, as I was saying, it is neat. It's not a new one. I had the opportunity to speak with some of the owners of the stores in different locations, and specifically this one. This is in Atlisco. I think it is even in Metepec, and he was telling me that this was made by a 40-year-old or so sign painter that unfortunately passed away during the COVID madness. But well, his work are still there, and when you see that people attach to this kind of signs, it could be by many reasons. It could be because it represents something dear to them, or because probably the store is a family business or so. And the thing is that most of them don't. When there's the sign paint is in need of having like a refresh, or they start to lose color, or to have some oxidation, they prefer for someone to paint over the letters, and they try to preserve the shapes, because now they are like part of their identity. Well, this is also one of probably the most kind of lettering that you can find in downtown Puebla, that it's made in ceramic. Specifically, this is of course Talavera, but it's a really interesting work to see how people make these tiles, make the lettering, and then they bring those to the oven. It's super complex to make. Well, this is of course a font. As I was saying, you're going to see many of these Talavera tiles things. This is one of my favorite ones because it has everything. It has the word fonda and que chula es Puebla. That is like like one of the mottos of the city. How beautiful is Puebla? And of course, there's the China Poblana, a plate of chiles en nogada. This is like really, really Mexican. But I want to take also the opportunity with this specific frame to make another statement. It is somewhat difficult to talk about these artisan-made letters or letterings, and not to take like a too academic or too stiff position, because there have been some efforts to capture this kind of work, of urban work, and many of the researchers start to use adjectives like vernacular, or like I don't know. Specifically, I have a problem with that word of vernacular, because sometimes it kind of looks down to this kind of work, and I'm absolutely against that, because after all, this is the thing that we see every day. And I think it's an opportunity to learn not how the design or the images or the colors are supposed to be used in our culture, but I think it's more natural to see these kind of things than to admire other kind of designs or other kind of color palettes. So I'm going to address this later, but remember this picture. So well, of course, there's a lot of uses for the letter. This is specifically for we can consider that like fast food, like Poblano fast food, molotes, or los molotes de la Poblanita. Of course, I want to make somewhat apology because most of these pictures have people in there, and I was wondering what to show because I don't mean to be disrespectful with the people doing their job, like this cocinera that is making the molotes. But every picture that I took with people in there, I asked for permission, of course, and some of them were like stranded, like saying, like, why are you taking pictures of the letters? Or why would you like to take pictures of the letters? But I think that it's a more natural approach to have these like interactions between the lettering, the black lettering and the people. And well, many of the sign paints, of course, are like in a standalone place or in closed locations, because as I was saying, many of these pictures I took it during the COVID lockdowns. This is not in Puebla city, this is in Tlatlauquitepec. Great coffee. And there are like some other this is when things are started to become weird. This unicase sort of textura made in wood by hand. Well, this is a really great example. This is from Atlixco, and how you can see how this is a really professional sign painter. Some of these pictures are a little bit bad quality because I started to do this with so many different phones and cameras and what I had at hand. Probably this is one of my favorite kind of lettering, that it's the one within these trucks, because they are all over the central Mexico. There are some of these trucks that go from Puebla to Mexico, to El Estado de Mexico, to Veracruz, and so. But it's interesting to see how they carry their names, their kind of branding on Blackletter. This is literally in my street, no? The Hornito Pan. Oh. This is from 1960s product by Corona. It's a freezer. I think it's a freezer. Yeah, and this is like like the contrast of the example that I was showing you before about how a sign painter is like really well trained. This is not that well done, but it has a feeling, still has a feeling. The funny thing is that I would never imagine to relate a Taekwondo dojo with Blackletter, but apparently they do. As I was saying before, the Blackletter apparently had like this strong like this strong connection with the formality, or I don't know how to say it. No, this is something very funny to see, because it's of course the Volkswagen logo. There's a big factory of Volkswagen in Puebla, and it's not something that you're going to see quite often, Volkswagen logo and in black letter, because apparently they don't like to be related to that. I'm not going to say why. This is from Huejotzingo, I'm pretty sure. Of course, there's a lot of bars and restaurants that use the black letter for that, and you can start to see how much effort people give to the decoration of these letters. This is like a really old one. Of course, barber shops, tattoo shops, they have like this relation, like probably this natural relation to the black letter because of the nature of the activity. Well, as I was saying, it sometimes is hard to see to declare or to separate what is texture and what is a mixed one. This is Tlaxcala, of course. This is interesting because it's a lot of text. It's a lot of text, and it is probably not the best work, but it really looks nice, and it's there's like this weird thing that many towns in Mexico have, that it's called like pueblos mágicos, like magical towns, to gain some tourism over the visits, but the thing is that not many of the pueblos mágicos have the inclination for the black letter, but Huamantla. I don't know why, but I really like Huamantla because of this. And there's like 4 more walls like this. These are painted back and front, and there's a lot of black letter there. So well, the last category in this collection, it could be like mestiza, but mestizo is a somewhat weird choice for a word, because it is related like something about race. I mean, in English, probably mestiza would be like half blood, but sounds weird also. I also try to make it a comparison with, not with races, human races, but with animal races, about the crossbreed. But I still, it's weird. So we're going to call this the hybrid section of the black letter, and this is where things get weird. And of course, this is like a warning, because they're going to appear some weird things. I was about to say about well, this is of course a diploma, but it's not really that weird, even though it's not really like made by one stroke, so it's like in between calligraphy and drawing. But these kind of things are really used to be offered, for example, in some churches like this one. And you can see how many different types of A, for example, having like probably four or five lines. This is, of course, a desk nameplate with also that kind of, I don't know how to name it, like some kind of italic or cancellaresque Gothic style. You can spot, for example, in the D or in the shape of the diamonds or the dots, how it's not really just one thing. This the second line in red, you can see how there's like a mix between some kind of a black letter and uncial or humanist hands. This is, of course, this is one of my favorites. This is also pretty much inspiring. This is from the 70s. It lies inside of a hotel downtown. And there's a lot of applications. I mean, it's not everything always about the regalness or the formality or the property. This is about just a trash can. No, it's a trash can, but it's a Gothic trash can. And then you start to see how the interpretation of the letters start to become uneven, like stain, but still appealing. No? This is one of my favorite examples. This is, of course, it's an organillero, and the machine, it's from Berlin, and of course, the Harmonipan brand is supposed to have like a traditional black lettering, but it's been painted all over once and once again, that it has become something really different, something on its own. I think this is one of the best examples of how Mexican black letter have become what it is now today, because it's not like a mixing, but it's more like a layering effect or phenomenon that's happening. This Leon Rojo, I absolutely love that L and that R. Some of these examples I have tried to the word that I'm not going to use that word. I have tried to domesticate some of these styles or these shapes, but it's kind of difficult. I'm going to show you more later. This is, of course, tilt, but it's kind of a textura, italic textura. This Esquites lettering, it's amazing. It doesn't make any sense in the calligraphy way of speaking. I teach the calligraphy course here in my university, and this is completely out of control, but it makes sense in a weird way. That Carniceria Mi Morenita is in the top part of the sign paint. It resembles a lot of the lettering of Los Pollos that I was telling you before, with the A, the really round A, but with the top of a textura. Well, this is a really small one, but there's a lot of mixing between the black letters of in the capital letters. I mean, between black letter and somewhat rustica style. This is also one of my favorites, the two Dos Lunas, Semitas. And of course, the Semita is like the Poblano sandwich by excellence. But it's interesting because it was made in a completely different place than the Esquites lettering before. But they kind of resemble that logic, that weird logic of deformation, I mean. Of course, some why not some caps, Gothic italic caps. This is one of the examples that I was telling you about, the mixing between black letter and rustica. This is interesting also how some of the small cap of the lowercase begin to become uppercase. And of course, the message, ya te lo peluqueaste. For example, this is one of the stretches, one of the most stretchy examples. This is not quite Gothic or black letter, but the diamonds. The diamonds and the shape of some of the strokes, for example, like the descent of the middle diagonal in the S, they resemble the Gothic. So maybe this is not black letter as such, but there's like a reminiscence of that in there. Some of the black letter begin to transform into something more typographical. This is has an interesting story because this bar was closed the whole the 3 years of the COVID-19, thing, but now it reopened. But the first thing that they made was to clean up the letters and to change the bulbs so they can start to shine again, those letters. This is one of my favorite mixing things between Gothic and Rustica. Again, there are some features, like for example, like roundy parts where are not supposed to be rounded, or some like inlines where are not supposed to be inlines, or even traps. For example, in the O in Rosa, the Santa Rosa, it's weird to try to make it with a pen or even with a brush. So this is a really nice one, the cofres. Hotel Victoria. This is something that is really common to just replace the caps and invent it. This is one of my favorites, the Tortilleria Ramirez. It looks really heavy metal. No, it's not something that you would expect for a tortilla tortilla shop. I don't know how, tortilla workshop. Doña Betty in a italic kind of Toscanesque way, no? But again, you can spot the diamonds, the Gothic diamonds there. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is not only mixing Gothic with the majuscules in a Roman way, but this resembles more of a sans serif that wants to be a Gothic one. And I tried to recreate some of the logic behind this, and it's really interesting. I have tried to find who made this, but I haven't been able to do it. Of course, this has to be an artist, a street artist probably, but this is in Chipilo, outside Chipilo, in the road to Atlisco, and you can see how important these features, not the black letter itself, but the features of the black letter, like the feeling that they convey, is what we are going to look for, and it's interesting. Here again, the caps are decorated, and then the lowercase is like more control, like more. We're not going to do that. What you are doing in the uppercase. This is a pretty great example, El Mercado de la Victoria in downtown Puebla, because they have been like marking and remarking the names of some of the shops surrounding the Victoria. It's a whole block of downtown Puebla, and they have the best mixing of black letter and rustica in the majuscules. They don't have space to make all these decorations that you have been seeing in other examples, but they also have to make this like compressed letterings, but they still change the rules. For example, the feet of the A are like open. So if you want to make this with the brush or with the pen, you have to start to change the not only the rapidness, but also like the rotation of the tip. And it's a really nice exercise. This is of course one of my favorites. You are going to start to think that everything is my favorite, but this is one of my favorites, definitely. A back slanted kind of basta bata, no? And it has also a lot of imagination there, but it has rules. You can see how these things are consistent with each other. For example, the A's. They're not exactly the same, but they do the same kind of rotation, the same kind of stress. So this is material for calligraphy. I mean, it's not my intention to say to the world, hey, stop using the calligraphy tutorials in YouTube, or stop paying attention to the calligraphy by Claude Mediaville. I mean, the classics and of course the great models are going to still be the references to learn calligraphy. But there are a lot of interesting things happening in the streets, and we just need to put attention. If not to copy, just to learn, because it might be like I'm suggesting that you should be out and copy and everything. This is one of my favorites also. But what I'm more interested is in what can we learn about this? What are the limits? How much can we stretch the concept of a style in not only calligraphy, but in the letter forms by themselves? This is also like a tricky one, because since it is tilt, it doesn't show how there's like an inclination, but also that the tip is rotated almost 75 degrees. So it's like almost a reversed contrast, italicized black letter with the diamonds. How do I know that it's black letter? Because it has diamonds. I'm sorry, that's my only rule. If it has diamonds, it is Gothic to me. Of course, this must be like a category in itself. The monumental sonidero lettering. It's a really Mexican thing, but I also think it's really appealing to see how they use the use of the black letter in this context. Well, there's a ghost. It says refrescos. Numbers is really interesting to see how this guy or this person tried to make the telephone number there. Then the word cell, it's really Gothic, and then struggle to make the numbers. So, but the 0 in 05, it remains Gothic, but the rest is something else. This is from one of the supporters of the Puebla de la Franja, the football team of the city, Los Descontrolados. This is from a pilgrimage to Santa Isabel Cholula, to the sanctuary of San Miguel del Milagro in Tlaxcala. And this is absolutely naive, but you can get the feeling of attachment to this work. And I think that speaks by itself. On the other hand, I have never imagined or even thought about a lowercase Gothic with ornaments. So this goes beyond my imagination. More of the trucks, of course. I really like this picture, how this guy is. He saw me taking the picture, but then he saw that I was taking the picture of the letters. And he started to see, what is this guy looking at? Yeah, I'm looking at the letters. El arte mexicano. This lecture, I think this is a good name for the lecture, El arte mexicano. And of course, many tiles of Talavera. For example, this is a really nice one. Talavera is it has a difficult technique because it has to be done with a round brush. So the Talaverano had to make the interpretation of a round tip making black letter. But this is also, I found this is not Talavera, of course, but it's like the same vibe. It's like black letter mixed with round kind of script style of letter. So it's really, really interesting. Again, the almost reverse contrast Gothic. You can see, for example, how some of the, if not the model or the style, some of the ideas begin to repeat in this kind of examples. Oh, la Iglesia de Dios, Church of God. And of course, the ice cream maker with the heat of disco. It's always refreshing to find a tilted black letter. Or how about this black letter-esque script dish, informal cancellaresque. Beso de ángel. And well, this is the last one. This is the last picture. This is, of course, one of the most famous places in Puebla. But well, probably the main concept that I want to take from this presentation is to talk about a little about the inventiveness that this kind of images can give to us. The inventiveness, not in a sense of, as I was saying, of copying. Of course, I have tried to imagine how some of these examples of black letter could be done in the rest of the alphabet. I haven't been able to accomplish everyone. I mean, there's a lot. There are some models that will not take you anywhere, but there are some others that are really interesting, and I'm really interested to dominate or to understand, because there's a lot of things that we can, as I was saying, learn from this. I mean, there are some things that regarding calligraphy, you kind of respect and don't move, or even don't dare to move. But what I want to take from this inventiveness of what we see in the streets of Puebla is that yes, we can do anything that we want. We can make it a calligraphy model, we can explore it as typography, and the interesting thing is that you can start to imagine other things that probably you will never ever dare to do, and that they were outside your house, your door, everywhere. This is inspired, of course, in the bakery that's in my street, the Hornito de Pan. And yeah, probably most of these will never become complete or whole typefaces, but I think that the mere practice is like super. I have been learning a lot from this, and well, I do think that it's really difficult to imagine things that we haven't seen yet. So we need to see in order to imagine. We need to see what it is in our surroundings, in our environmental, in our letterform environments, because we might probably find ourselves there instead of looking anywhere else. So thank you. That's it for me.
Gracias, Jesús. That was amazing. Oh my God. I got so many inspirational thoughts from you from this talk. People, we're going to open up the Q&A. I see 2 questions, but bring them on. We have up to 1:30 when we have to cut off. So let's see your questions in the Q&A. And I'm going to try to type the answers as Jesús is responding. So be patient with me as I get those in. All right, Jesús, the first question comes from Gilberto Corona, who asks, hi, Jesús, thanks for the wonderful talk. I'm curious how you expressed about vernacular letter form. I do agree that this classification somehow looks down on the trade, but most of the time we found those letter forms accompanied with beautiful Mexican street graphics that appropriate well-known characters like those of Disney. Do you think these are two different artist expressions, or can you talk more about your critique about vernacular letter forms?
Yeah, well, this is the interesting thing, because yes, I want to address to the specific example now that Gilberto mentioned Disney. I want to talk about the movie Coco. You know? That many people in Mexico loved it, and many other criticized it because of appropriation. But I think it's appropriation. It works funny, at least in the Mexican way, because there's no not a clear side of the appropriation, because it's always like a somewhat ping pong or tennis court, because for example, in this case, a major American movie company appropriate some things, but then when it releases to the people begin to appropriate the things, and they have to make a lot of these rótulos or sign paintings, but they also make piñatas and wooden toys and plush toys and a lot of t-shirts that of course are not in a licensed way of speaking, belong to Disney. So there's like a really cool thing. It's almost a punk culture that we live on, because we're going to appropriate everything. So that's maybe what I don't like about the vernacular concept, because it looks kind of like safe, like you're going to say the streets from a safe place. I would recommend, and of course that's something that I would not like to happen with my research on this topic, because it is safe to just to see the things, just to take some pictures and to speak of the things. I think that we need to be there. We need to eat in those restaurants. We need to walk those streets. We need to talk to the people. We need to meet these sign painters. The sign painters or rotulistas have a lot of things to say in Mexico, and of course you have to learn a lot from a design point of view. There's a whole trade, a whole training process to make these kind of things. So that's why I like the vernacular thing, because sometimes it feels to me like it's like a thing of the other. You cannot see like the others afar. You need to be part of the others, because we are also the other. And so there's a lot of otherness in this kind of approaches, and the final thought on this is that for me this is not vernacular. For me this is home.
That well put, Jesus. Well put. This is not vernacular. This is home. I love it. Okay. All right. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. There's a different perspective when you're there, when you're living it, as opposed to like you're just some designer who swoops in and takes some pictures and then, exploits that for your own work. So that's where the bad connotation of the word vernacular came in, I think.
Yeah.
Was when that started to happen in the 90s, and
yeah, totally.
There wasn't enough respect for the actual craft that went into producing these things in the first place, because it is a lived and learned craft. Thank you. Okay, let's see. We got another question from Snowden, who's been very active in the chat. Thank you, Snowden. Snowden says, are there lettering artists whose hands you started to be able to recognize as you've been observing and recording these exemplars? Have you met or talked to any of the creators of these signs? Although I expect many of these makers remain anonymous, I would love to hear about that if you have. Good question. Mhm.
Yes, it's most of these letters or these pictures are were taken to signs that are like 10 or 20 years old. So most of the record gets lost. One of the interesting things is that the sign painters or the rotulistas tend to work like in a geographical influence area, probably in the neighborhood or in the town, the town where they work from. And yeah, you can start to see how the exact same shapes repeat on itself. Uh, in Puebla, it's been more difficult to identify because there are so many people living here. But in small towns, for example, like Chignautla or Teciutlán, yeah, it's been more easy to approach. And sometimes you can even like I have like catch the painters while doing the work and have a little chat with them. For example, in the area of this where I am working in the university, there are there's a couple of sign painter shops, and I have talked to the rotulistas. I want to say the artists, but it's not artists. They consider themselves more like crafters, because it's kind of interesting to see how they see to themselves and their work. And I've tried to put some of my students in the way of these painters, to work with them, to work for them. But yes, I think that the social or the anthropological part of this research could be like a really great complement, because there's a lot of stories and a lot of learning and a lot of struggling behind every one of these examples. And yes, I might take another 5 or 6 years to do so. So, but yeah, I think it's important because behind all of these letters, there are a lot of people making the work and making this environment for us. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Great answer. I like the concept of behind each of these letters, there's a person,
Yes.
and a story and a struggle and a lot of learning and a lot of craftspersonship and talent, right? And I, as a printer, I can tell you I appreciate it when people refer to their work as a craft,
Yes.
more than an art, because that's really what it is in many cases. Even though it may turn out artistic, it's a
But
craft.
I think that craft feels more real, like more practical. Like I think that you can actually use. And I mean, I don't have anything against art, but I think art belongs to some other level or to other place. I mean,
We have another question here from Snowden, who says, can you tell us which fonts you use for the text in your slides?
well,
Oh.
the main font, well, it's Blacken. I designed that typeface. It's Blacken. It's named like that, Blacken. And the other ones are going to be still in progress. So I hope to finish them someday.
So people should check your website for
Yes.
ways to get these fonts if they're interested in them, especially the work in progress ones.
Yeah, of course. And I have to do a lot how to do some maintenance to the website. I need to do a lot of updates. I need to do a lot of updates because yeah, and I need. It's interesting because for this lecture, I thought I'm going to uh, collect some of my ideas or some of the sketches, and I have a lot. I mean, I had a lot of work to complete. So I hope to do it someday because, well, I mean, this is really interesting to have this feedback because if it's if you like the sketches, now I am compelled to complete the work, right?
That's right.
Yes, yes.
You know what you got to do after this talk is over.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's a question from Fan Nguyen. Sorry if I butchered your name, Fan. Fan says, thanks, Jesús. It seems to me that the majority of these Blackletter works take their cue from the Old English variant rather than more traditional Blackletter styles or what developed in Germany. Could you speak on why Old English resonated more than other forms of Blackletter?
Well, there's like a probable explanation, and it's a little disappointing one. But because Old English text is a typeface that it's been so popular and so well around us since the 1990s. So many computers have specifically the Old English text. So when everyone wants to make something with a Gothic style, that's the first one that popped. But during this research, I kind of identified three possible sources. It's not just only the Old English text font, but there's also like some of the Blackletter styles in the Speedball manual, but also there's a really interesting influence of Caslon text because it was commercialized during probably the last 20 years of the 19th century in Puebla. So many printing shops had the Caslon text, and so when the sign painters start to recreate some of the typographical forms as a sign paint, they start to look at Caslon text. It was by coincidence, but I have been like spotting some features that repeat, and you can identify. I need to do more formal research in that way, because I do think that there is a way to understand how or where those influences come from. And of course, for example, it's funny because you wouldn't even imagine how English or British-esque influence there are in our streets. And I think that's good material for our research.
Absolutely. I think that the connection between the print history and the sign painters is something that most cultures have experienced. And so I'm not surprised to hear that that was also the case in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Anonymous says, I've noticed on a few of the signs the use of quotation marks around the business name. Is that a widespread custom in Mexico or more specific to your city?
No, I think it's a widespread in Mexico, but there's also like I think that also had to do with the Speedball manual, but yeah, the use of the quotation like to mark the name of the business or the main word of the business. But there's also some interpretations of the quotes that it's not like really like curvy or lengthy forms, but just like two balloons. It's like a really common thing, like two overposed balloons as quotation marks. As that's a funny thing. I don't know if that's a thing of Mexico in general, but I can assure that it's not just from Puebla. You can see it like almost everywhere.
Two what? Did you say two balloons?
Like two balloons, like two circles, but with a shape. One over other. I need to find a picture to show it to you, because yeah, it's are not really quotation marks, are like some other thing.
Well, it is common. Sometimes you see signs where people have put quotation marks around just totally random words. And you're like, why? Or texts where they do that. You're like, why did you put that in quotes? Why did you? Who knows? Maybe it's just a way of emphasizing something. I don't know.
I think there are some like habits that we inherited from the time when people used to have typewriting machines.
Right.
They didn't have changes to use italics or bolds and stuff. So many things like underlining or quoting. I think that's maybe one of the ways, but as you said, it's totally random. Yeah.
Be random. Harant asks, Harant is also active in the chat. Thanks, Harant. Are there examples of Mexican hybrid forms migrating outside of the Hispanic sphere, outside of Latino America?
Well, actually, we are in the best season to look at that, because we are now in the Dia de Muertos festivity thing, and ironically, of course, probably due to the Coco movie by Pixar, the Dia de Muertos madness kind of spread all over the world, and you can actually see some of the altars of Dia de Muertos to use black letter, but it's never like the traditional black letter. There's always some kind of rendition, and I think that's another place to spot. Actually, we have like some other crafts surrounding this festivity, like papel picado, for example, or some of the covers made by Jose Guadalupe Posada, that make this kind of mixing of black letter styles and some other kind of lettering, mostly Tuscan letters and sans serifs. But if you find Dia de Muertos, if you search for Dia de Muertos and things about Dia de Muertos, you might probably end up finding some of this hybrid Gothic Mexican style. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's true. It's a popular, I can say in California, it's a very popular celebration, but we have like 50% population is Latino, right? So that may explain it, but I think you're correct that it's taken off all over the world. And I'm glad it has.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gotta honor our dead, right?
Yes.
Okay, Pranavi asks, how do you see the future of black lettering in Mexico? Do you see it as continuing as part of the culture or diminishing? The campaign to paint over traditional signs comes to mind. And we did have a lecture recently by Romina Hernandez, and Ro talked about that and was not very happy about that. So maybe you can answer that. And Pranavi also asks, could type design play a role?
Well, I think we are more far from type design playing a role there than the actual thing disappearing, because I know Ro is really, it has a really strong, she's got a really strong point of view about this. Of course, this was a scandal what happened in Mexico City, but as I was trying to emphasize in the first part of the lecture, well, Mexico is not just Mexico City, and there are sign painters and sign paintings everywhere, and I don't see this disappearing anytime soon. But what I'm more worried is that this is not probably being made on purpose, the usage of the this kind of new models for black letter. And I think that's where education or the research that I am doing, I would like to contribute to that. Not to teach the sign painters, of course, but maybe just to raise awareness between the designers, the young designers, that this kind of expression are like a possibility, that not everything has to do with the Helvetica or Swiss design in the identities of the brandings. Of course, I mean, no, I don't think that everything is it has to do with black letter everywhere, but I do think that we have this opportunity to systematize this kind of shapes and to learn from them. No, definitely it's not going to disappear because actually probably there was a revival, at least in Puebla, like probably 10 years ago, of sign painting as a craft. No, more like 15 or 20 years ago, because with the appearance of the plotter and printers and vinyl cut and stuff, many of the craftsmen were scared of their craftsmanship to be like displaced, but people now started to notice that the sign paint lasts more, it's more beautiful, it's more appealing, and like in the long period of time, it's even more accessible to do than to print. I don't know, like spectaculars or plotters things. So there's been that kind of reappreciation on the craft. I don't know if that happens or how it happens outside Puebla, but the struggle continues. I mean, there's a lot of sign painters that need to move out of the city to make this kind of search for clients, and that's where I think designers can do our part, because if we work with them and we work together and we do business together, we could like help each other. And I don't know, I think that could be like a good thing to do. About type design being influenced by these things, I would like to say or to express first that I do encourage type designers to keep designing black letters, because I have heard from some other colleagues that and Grant is going to like this comment, but some people in Europe, specifically in the Netherlands, they don't suggest to keep drawing things like black letter because they don't sell. I think that we should like change the way we think. Probably not every work we do have to do with selling or to do a commercial work, or maybe to shift how we do the business. And I would encourage to every type designer to keep like exploring not only on black letter forms, but also with every kind of aspect of the letter, because I think that typeface design has a lot of field to explore. Sometimes it feels like everything is already done or already said, but I think that when we kind of encounter this kind of landscapes, we can say that there's not everything written in stone yet, so we can do more. No?
Thank you. That was amazing answer. And I especially like the idea that we, as graphic designers, we can do our part to help maintain these traditions of craft that may be dying out. We don't have to buy the cheap vinyl sign. We can commission a sign painter, and guess what? That sign will last longer and look better. Let's do it, folks. Okay, we got one last question, then we're going to call it a day. Gregory Friston asks, have you learned whether the style of lettering usually is requested by the proprietor buying the signage, or does the sign writer put the time into painting these letters because they take pride in their work, or because they know that it would be expected to make a sign that does its job well?
Yeah, well, there's I don't want to generalize, but many of the decisions are made by the craftsman. And I think that's interesting, because when a client or a person wants to have a sign hand painted, they rely on the experience of the rotulista. And it's funny because rotulistas have like a really clear idea of what goes where and how are you supposed to express what. And I think that trusting on their experience is also part of the process of the letterform environment that we're looking at, because as you could see, there were some resemblance between some of the design paints, but they were not a single one identical to another. So I think that there's a creativeness, like a latent creativeness working in there, and I think that's that kind of trust, or that kind of self trust could be also one thing to learn from us designers, because designers are more like like used to dab, to see if you want some changes, or what version do you like more. No, the rotulistas, they don't have the time for that kind of thing. They have to do, for example, when they paint over a truck, or even in a facade of a restaurant or a shop, they have to do it when they are closed. So they don't have like really much time to do. So they have to be efficient, and they have to work as they need to. So I think that that's a cool way of being that I would like to to take to my way to approach design, because there's a level of trust in the craft that I admire, and that we could also follow as an example.
Very well put. I appreciate the comparison between the way a designer works and the way a rotulista works, and it's a different process, and the client has different expectations, and maybe we can learn something from them, I don't know. Okay. Thank you so much, Jesus, and thank you everybody for joining us today. That was a fantastic lecture, and thanks so much for educating us about the great science in Puebla, Jesus. All right, folks, stay tuned for our next lecture, and we'll hope to see you in some of our upcoming workshops.
Great.
Thank you, everybody, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.